Gardening can sometimes be bewildering, which is why I am so pleased that we have snuggled up with our friends at Crocus for this podcast series. As you probably know, Crocus is the most trusted online gardening brand. Their website is stuffed full of advice, inspiration, and of course, plants and products to help bring your dream garden to life. Check out Crocus's website to find out more. If you find something that you just cannot resist, use the code SCRIBEHOUND20 at the checkout to enjoy 20% off all full-price plants until October the 31st, which is, of course, Halloween. Hello, this is the Scribehound Gardening Podcast, and sitting opposite me on a sofa and looking semi-gorgeous is...
Joe Swift. I presume you're talking about me, James.
And nobody else there. And I am James Alexander-Sinclair, and we are here to guide you through the highs and lows, the swings and sways of gardening.
We are.
We are here, basically, we're going to talk about gardening a bit, and we're going to talk about other stuff. Part of this is a conversation between us, but the other part of it requires the cooperation of the listening public. What do we want from them, Joe?
Well, we want questions mainly, but not obviously dead plants or dull questions, the 2Ds. Well, so what's our subject matter?
Well, what?
This week,
okay, I'm going to ask you a leading question here.
Okay.
All right. What is the British public's most popular topic of conversation?
The weather.
The weather, correct. And more specifically...
Rain.
Rain or lack of rain, basically.
Yeah,
is what it
okay.
is.
Do I win a gnome for answering that correctly?
You do not at all. You win nothing at all. But wherever 2 or 3 British people are gathered together, you will find them talking about the rain. If you gather together 2 or 3 gardeners, then they will almost certainly be complaining to a certain extent about the rain. Either it is raining too much or else it is raining too little. And actually, my opinion is that it rains just the right amount most of the time.
I think this year we've had just the right amount at the right moment. Just when you think it's getting a bit dry, and we had quite a dry spring, it rained.
Yeah.
And today, as we talk, it's raining.
Yeah.
And it's but the forecast is looking quite nice in the future.
Shall I tell you the other thing that happens when people start talking about rain? It becomes unbelievably boring. I was in there thinking, God, this is a dull conversation. Why are we having it? But one does, and to a certain extent, it's the sort of politeness thing, isn't it? What are we going to talk about? We talk about the weather. We can't really talk about anything too dramatic. We need to sort of feel this out, so we talk about the rain.
We don't want to talk about Brexit. We don't want to talk about politics. We don't want to talk about world problems.
No.
Let's just keep it light, keep it simple, and keep it topical. And also, everyone has an interest in the weather, especially gardeners.
They have an opinion on that sort of thing. But water obviously goes further than just what falls from the sky. Water in gardening is actually quite important, and is something that has been, well, obviously it's one of the, what I see it as is the 3 building blocks of a garden, which are basically hard things.
Yeah.
So your paths, your paving, your walls, your whatever. Your soft things, which is anything that's growing and that's alive. And you wet things, which is water. And there's nothing else that we have to make gardens out of.
Well, there are other features. I mean, we did talk about lighting, and there are features like pots.
No.
And there's furniture.
No.
And there's other things you can put into a garden.
But furniture and pots are hard things.
That's true.
You see?
Okay.
So my theory is that really you only have 3 ingredients. Every garden is made from 3 ingredients. And so if you leave one of those out, then it makes it trickier.
No, because I think you can make a garden completely out of plants without any hard things.
Yeah.
I think you can make a garden completely out of hard things without any plants. But it would
that
be
would be a really that wouldn't be
terrible.
a garden. That would be
it would be terrible. But you can make a garden out of hard things and soft things without the water feature. Okay, you need water. Are you talking about rainwater now?
No, I'm basically talking about water, which is that's the third option. So yes, okay, you can do things without it, but the best gardens usually have all 3.
Yeah, I love water in a garden. I mean, it can be in different forms. It can be Are we talking feature? We're not talking irrigation systems here, are we?
No,
Not
boring,
yet.
Boring.
No, but we will get on
We
to
will
that.
get onto that. But no, we're talking about ponds, about rills, about streams, about water features. Water feature. Water feature is interesting. I think that water
No,
feature...
you can't. You have to pronounce it water feature.
Water feature.
Feature.
I think it was invented by ground force, the water feature.
The water feature, yeah, Charlie.
Because before
she's still
that,
doing it as well.
But before, because yes, of course, you were doing something with her the other day. Weren't you?
No, I'm on that program. I didn't put a water feature in, but she's famous for her water features.
Yeah, but what were they before that? They were fountains or ponds.
Yeah.
And then they suddenly became. How do you pronounce it again?
A water feature.
Water feature.
Water feature.
Water feature. So
it's
those,
almost like water feature. If you try and think of water feature.
Oh yeah, what a feature, what a photograph.
You got it. You got
Flash bang wallet. What a feature.
Yeah, what a feature, what a photograph. I adore water in a garden. In fact, I've just installed what I think I wouldn't call it a water feature. I would call it a very expensive bird bath. But it's a reflective pool. It's a reflective pool. And the thing about water is it's elliptical shape. It's 1.4 meters by 1.1 meters. It's one piece of stone that's been carved. Very heavy. It took 4 of us to get it in, and I wasn't doing that much heavy lifting, so it really took 3.5. And it had to be perfectly level, and it's got a dish. It's cut out into a dish, and then it's just water that I top up with the hose pipe. There's no movement of water, but immediately you get a light breeze on it. Or this morning as I left, it was raining, and it animates the garden, and the reflective quality brings the sky down into the garden, and yes, hopefully brings birds in. Someone said to me, "What is that? Is that a bird bath for an albatross or something?" Because it is quite, but it's got to be in proportion and in scale with the garden.
Which it does, and that's sitting on a wall, isn't it? I mean,
sitting on a wall, it's a major feature. It's a major feature.
But that's not a water feature. It's a feature.
Yeah.
But so a water feature, I think, is something that moves. So you have moving water. I get yours, and people can go and see your enormous bird bath for an albatross on your Joe's Country Garden thingy.
YouTube
channel.
Joe's Country Garden.
I mean, don't go there now, say, listening to us, but later you can go and look at that. So that's a still thing. But then I guess it started off as bringing drinking water to yourself. I mean, aqueducts and the Romans and the Persians and the Paradise Garden, all that sort of stuff. That was air conditioning too, because Persian gardens, you had a courtyard and then water came into it, and then that cooled the air down and made it a more comfortable place to be. So you start off with water in the garden, which is used for human consumption. For drinking and cooking and all of that kind of stuff. Water that is there to cool the air down.
And to irrigate the plants as well.
And that's the third one, is to irrigate
in the
plants.
desert, if you can harvest water somehow and water your plants with it.
Then you can grow stuff, and so you have the oasis things. And that's the sort of beginning of it. And now it's become, and then I guess it turned into fish ponds. All the priories and monasteries of the medieval times had fish ponds because they were only allowed to eat fish on Fridays.
Carp, was it?
Horrible.
Who wants to eat that stuff?
I'll tell you who wants to eat it. Most of Eastern Europe want to eat it. It's a big thing. I think they have them for Christmas.
Yeah, they do. I've once eaten carp. I think we've had this story, haven't we, about carp, about me eating a carp.
I don't know. Tell us the story about you eating a carp.
No, it's a very long story, and it's just that we couldn't afford anything else, and it was this huge fish, and we were trying to impress some girls. So we cooked this big carp, and no one ate any of it because it was overcooked, and it was really mushy, and it was horrible.
They basically taste of mud, and it's full of bones.
And they left very early. So it was a disaster all round.
The intention,
but
was
yes,
not
okay.
cheap.
But yes, okay. So the monastery, they would have their own
fish ponds. So that's again, it's not exactly a water feature.
No.
In the way that we were thinking about it, but that's the sort of beginning of it, and then it went off into lakes. I mean, there's always been ponds. There's always been ponds because that's you have to get the water from somewhere. And then I guess in the modern era, I think the thing that must have changed it so that water features could get into sort of normal people's houses was the invention of the electric pump. Because before that, it was gravity. It's like the Emperor Fountain at Chatsworth. Have you seen that?
Yeah, amazing. And that's gravity fed.
And that's basically that's a pipe that goes, I think, probably a couple of miles up into a
to
reservoir
a hill
on top of the
somewhere.
hill.
It was
And
all hand dug as well.
and the pipe's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, which means that the water is going faster and faster and faster and faster. It's like being on a water flume. You know those water slides that you go on, except instead of the tube being the right size, it would suddenly get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you'd have to lie down and be thinner and thinner and thinner, and get shot out the bottom like a cork from a champagne
Well, that's
bottle.
it. It's got this huge fountain in the middle, and it, you know, I don't know, what is it, 30 feet high or something?
More than that.
Is it?
More. I mean, 30 feet high against the background of Chatsworth. Not
It's
gonna
wonderful, but it has to be in scale. See, that's the thing about water, because you've got a great big garden. Well, not okay, we haven't all got a Chatsworth, but you've got a large garden, and then you've got this little water feature in a corner, and they're trickling away. And they trickle away until the pump breaks. See, the problem is with water features, having installed many of them over time, is that the water evaporates, the pump's still running, the pump then packs it in, and the whole thing just gets chucked into the shed. Because unless you've got a top-up mechanism. Okay, now we're getting water is complicated. Water garden disasters are quite common, and you often get someone saying, I want a rill, I want a stream, I want a pond, I want a water feature, and they haven't really thought it through. And we now only use water specialists to install, having learnt the hard way, because water always finds its own level. It evaporates. It needs pumps. It needs engineering. You know, liners need hiding really well. Oh, that's my biggest bugbear, is just seeing pond liner after a bit of evaporation, and all the way around you've got this creasing thing going on. It's terrible.
It's a really difficult thing to do, is to get it all pleated and neat and nice. It's actually really hard, because you're basically trying to get something that is essentially a rectangle into an irregular hole a lot of the time, and it's hard. And one of the things, I guess the classic one that I've seen is that where you've got a rill thing, and the water is being pumped from the bottom to the top all the time, and then the pump gives out, as you say,
or you turn it off,
which means that all the water ends up down the bottom. And if you happen to have built that quite close to your house, then all the water ends up in your kitchen.
Exactly.
Which has happened.
Or the opposite. You've got the pond right at the bottom of, say, a little waterfall or a rill, and it's too small. So the pump pumps the water from the bottom to the top, but has emptied the bottom reservoir before the top bit fills up. You see?
It's complicated.
It is complicated.
It is complicated. It is difficult.
But these days there are sort of, self-contained features. Well, here we go. Self-contained features that go on a wall or in a plant. You buy the whole thing already, and some of them are solar as well, because the last thing you want to have to do is try and get some electrics anywhere near your water feature to keep the pump turning over. So some of them are solar powered now, and you can have the panel not next to the feature. You can have the panel maybe sort of 5 meters away, hide it somewhere at the top of a tree or something, and then the water feature will keep sort of ticking over a little bit from the solar panel.
They're mostly quite horrible, though. To be perfectly honest, they sort of look as if they're coming from the lobby of a hotel. It's that sort of thing.
There's a market, Jimmy. There is a market for you and me. Come on, let's go into the water feature range. Joe and James with the range.
We can adapt a Scribehound legendary gnome so that it produces water in a. I mean.
We still haven't got a name for the gnome.
No, we haven't got a name for the gnome.
We need to put it out there. We still need to name the gnome.
Name the gnome, please, because we haven't found one that's actually satisfactory yet. It's going to be hard finding a proper name for the gnome. I'm coming back to water.
Yeah.
Now I completely forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say something of great import and design what's-is. Oh, I tell you what, the other problem that we have with water, or a lot of people worry about water, because I say, okay, we're going to put this fountain in, going to get this right. They said, but that's going to make me want to go and do a pee all the time. You know that? Because if you get the
sound.
If you got the sound, so you've got a water spout, which is a lovely thing, directing water into a pond below. If you get it too high, then it does sound like a donkey pissing in a bucket.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah,
so you've
not
got to
good.
You've got to get the height about right, which I'd say is about 50 or 60 centimeters maximum. Any higher than that, then not a good idea, because then everybody, it's that sort of,
You don't want over gushing either.
You don't want
You don't want
over-gushing.
trickling. You don't want over gushing. Some small gardens you go into, and it's like, what? I can't hear you above the roaring.
Because there's too much noise.
Yeah.
Because there's a place for a cascade, and actually in a big garden, it's quite nice to have something really loud.
Yeah.
Like a sort of, an Amazonian waterfall, but not in a small one, because it's just not going to work. But at the same time, you want to have enough. You don't want it to be, I mean, we're getting quite urological here, but you don't want it to be trickling.
No one wants a trickle in their garden.
Nobody wants a trickle.
A little trickle.
I had a pond or a fountain once, which I used in a Chelsea garden many, many, many years ago. I did a Chelsea garden in 1999 or something, and I had a pump that I found at some trade exhibition that they used in Disneyland, which basically every 30 seconds or something, it
a little squirter.
Yeah.
Okay.
For want of, it sort of ejaculated, basically, is what it did. I'm afraid. I mean, it was a buff.
Every 30 seconds?
Every 30 seconds.
That's impressive.
It would shoot this sausage of water from one pond to the other.
Yeah. Did you have one in your garden?
Yeah, it was cool. It was quite exciting
I wish
and
I
quite
could remember
fun.
your garden better. I remember, I didn't know you then, but I remember seeing this weird guy with a hat, from a distance.
Yeah.
I didn't see any squirting going on.
No, there was a very definite sort of squirt that went. I had a lower pond and a higher pond, and it was quite fun.
Yeah,
it was
they were fun, those.
I'm not sure whether, they must use them still in. I mean, it was
They
good
used
for a
to
show.
use them in Disneyland.
They must do.
Of course
mustn't
they do. Because that's what they were designed for,
And
James.
Las Vegas, rather than for gardens. I mean, it's not something you'd ever put in a domestic garden, because it would just look weird and look wrong. So in a domestic garden, it's something that you have to live with all the time. So it needs to be something that you're comfortable with.
I like the idea of a squirting jet in maybe over the house. You've got one in the front garden, and you've got a vessel in the back garden, and every 30 seconds this, what did you call it, an ejaculation? Squirting right over the house, and being captured at the back. Don't think we're elaborate enough, because that would be really practical, wouldn't it?
It would be really practical. As soon as the wind blew, because that's the other problem with waterfalls or fountains, is as soon as the wind goes, then all the water leaves the pond. Have you ever made a really bad one? Have you ever made a really bad?
I have made some. I've made a couple of really bad ones, but they weren't designed by me, obviously, because we used to build for other designers. We did one where the bottom bit emptied out before it filled the top bit, and there was absolutely no solution. So what you actually want to do is a series of ponds, so that when it turns off. I'm going to some practical advice.
That's fine.
So when you turn the pump off, the water is held in a few ponds, staggering all the way down.
Yeah.
So it's not just sort of streaming down the hill or the bank into the bottom area.
Or you have to build a big enough reservoir at the bottom, which is why you need a specialist.
That was a disaster. So we spent a couple of weeks building this thing, turned it on, and all you heard was this gurgling pump, and it didn't work at all. That was not good. Then my very early landscaping experience, I remember we were renovating a pond in a nice big garden in Hampstead, and it just kept leaking. We put a liner in, and then someone rendered over the top of it, and it was my boss at the time, and he was on his hands and knees, like Basil Fawlty, splashing the top of this water in front of the client, going, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." that's how I learned about client management, right there and then. And I also learned that water can be a disaster.
It can.
How about you?
And a leak in a pond. We've all had leaky ponds.
Yeah.
And you see, it's very, very difficult to find it. Water will find this tiny little thing.
Yeah.
I think that the stupidest thing that I ever did, this was a very long time ago, and it was when I first started. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I made a stream going through somebody's garden. And so we got this rubber liner and put it through and put the soil over the top of it. And looking back at it, it looked pretty horrible, basically. And I thought, how can we do this? We need to put some plants in this.
Yeah.
And so I still to this day, I do not know what possessed me to do this.
What did you put in there? What did you plant in there?
No, it wasn't what I planted; it's how I planted it.
Okay.
I thought, we need to get some bulrushes and some things doing it. How am I going to do that? And I This is
No,
embarrassing.
you didn't make a hole in the liner.
I made a hole in
Oh, I'm planted through the liner.
planted through the liner. I thought, oh, it's fine, it'll be okay. And then we turned it on, and then obviously what happens
Wow.
is that the water went underneath the liner, and the liner
It floated up.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
why.
it would do, because the liner's there to hold the water in.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, James, I'm so glad you moved away from the landscaping elements.
Why am I admitting to that?
Yeah.
A public,
Well, we all learn
a
the
public
hard
thing.
way.
But another one, which wasn't a disaster, but it was quite fun dealing with it. And that we did have the problem in that dug a pond, put the liner in, everything fine, except that there was an old land drain underneath the pond that we hadn't spotted, which meant that the water came through the old land drain, and the water was underneath the liner, and so much water underneath the liner that the liner came to the surface.
It pushes it up, yeah.
Like that. And so we worked out how to do it. In that what we're going to do is we're going to get a mole. Do you know what a mole is?
A mole?
A mole. It's not like a real mole. But it's like it's.
How is a mole going to help anything?
It's this metal tube.
A metal tube? What? It's a digging.
A metal tube that
tunneling,
basically
a tunneling.
bang, 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 and you have a hydraulic airline on it, and there's a weight inside it, and every time it bangs to the front, it goes forward and forward and forward. So basically, it's tunneling its way. And I remember
It's like the Great Escape or something.
It is very like that. It was quite
Wallace
small.
and Gromit. Were you in the hole behind this thing?
We were behind it. It was me and Jeffrey, and it was his machine. And we started about 30 yards away and aimed it at the right thing. And I remember it.
So what's this mole? What are you trying to achieve here?
Well, wait till the end of the story.
Okay.
So there's the pond with the liner floating on top of the water. All the water
You're
is
30 feet away.
underneath the liner. We're about 30 yards away with this thing. We dug a hole, we put this underneath it, and we've aimed it like a torpedo to this thing. And it goes, and very slowly it works its way there. And as we were doing this was on a probably February time, and the light began to fade.
Okay.
It said, bubba-da, 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 bubba. And there's this torpedo that's very slowly making its way. And then we're sort of thinking, is it going to hit it? Or is it going to miss it? Or is it going to go this way? So we were standing in this hole, feeding this pipe up the thing. Button-da, 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 button-da. Is it going to get this and get there? And then just as the light faded, and it was pretty much in pitch darkness by that time. And this was before mobile telephones, so we didn't have much in the way of torches. Suddenly, it got to just the right place.
Okay.
And water poured down this tunnel that we built into the hole in which we were standing and flooded our gumboots. But the liner settled neatly back down again.
Oh, wonderful.
And everything was
So this
fine.
is a good story.
That's a happy
ending.
I'm getting over the embarrassment of making a hole in the liner in order to plant
But you
something.
just made this. You made a hole through the clay. Was it clay? It must have been clay.
basically it was clay.
Because you didn't line that tube.
No. It's
It
basically
just
just the whole thing.
natural.
It just basically it was there as
Wow,
a
that
drain.
sounds really exciting.
And that was quite fun. And that was just quite a sort of cool, interesting way of doing it. But it could have gone terribly. It could have punctured the liner. It could have knocked
missed.
down the
You could have been
missed.
there at midnight and it had missed. And
It could be somewhere in Bedfordshire.
Yeah,
We're still
exactly.
waiting for
You
it
could
to
have
happen.
flooded Bedfordshire.
We could have done that.
You'll never forget the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But I mean, we have basically put people off making any form of water because there is wonderful. They are a wonderful addition, aren't they?
They're a fantastic
water in some form for wildlife. They are an absolute magnet for wildlife. Even a little puddle, but I mean a pond, ideally a wildlife pond. And we're not going to go into how to make them all and everything, but they are a magnet. The minute you put water in a garden, wildlife turns up.
Immediately, a puddle or anything like that will happen.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking mostly about slightly more ornate sort of landscapery stuff, whereas a pond in a pot if you've got a small garden, a pond if you can dig one, all that kind of stuff. I have a pond. You have a pond, don't you?
No, I've got it's got a dew pond. It dries out in the summer. It's more of a sort of rain garden type thing. But I am thinking, longer term of putting a pond in.
I think everybody should have a pond.
A swimming pond. Now, do you have any experience with swimming ponds? Because they're very fashionable these days, James.
Very fashionable.
And if you're going to have a pond big enough, you may as well swim in it, right?
Dead right. If you can do it, the ones that I've done, basically what you do is you have the water, and then the water goes through the sort of, you pump it back through a, sort of gravel bed, which has got lots of plants in
and
it.
The plant
and
filters
all of
it all
stuff.
through.
Exactly.
And you're swimming amongst the damselflies and maybe
And the
a couple of
frogs.
fish and frogs and things, and you're in. And I love that idea. I think it's.
And it looks natural. It looks
Yeah,
like a sort of
yeah.
natural pond if you position it right. So yeah, I think that's a really lovely and nice thing to do. So a pond for Kath, a pond for wildlife, a pond for the sound of water trickling down.
Because you could then actually quite simply connect a pump to it. Well, you're going to have trickling anyway for the filtration system,
Yeah.
but you could have some
can have an extra bit.
noisy bit,
Yeah.
and then also a sort of decking pontoon coming out.
A decking
where
pontoon.
you splash off, your bit of bombing.
Yeah, if you can elegantly dive from the end of the decking pontoon, that is lovely.
Yeah, that would be great. But you do need a big garden for that.
You do need quite a big garden. But I think that nobody should be put off the size of their garden. You should still be. You can have a pond on a balcony.
Yeah.
You can have a pond anywhere, and a pond
in a pot.
brings
Pond in a pot.
Pond in a pot.
Oh, I've written a couple of articles about pond in a
ponds
pot.
in a pot.
And you put an oxygenator in there, a marginal in there, and a dwarf water lily or something, and you've got some lovely planting too.
Yeah, a pond is for everybody.
A pond is for everybody. But also, so we're not going to talk about irrigation systems, which
No,
are a
we're
bit of a
going
nightmare.
to stop talking about water now. We may well come back, and I think we should come back. And I think it would be quite fun to talk more about swimming ponds at some point, and definitely talk more about wildlife and things like that. We'll do a podcast about that.
Yeah.
But we're going to stop now because I think it's time. What's it time for, Joseph?
Is it time for questions?
It's time for questions.
Oh, and time to win a gnome.
Trying to win
And become a Scribe Hound legend.
I have in my hand some cards that have been handed to us by Louis. These have been sent in by you, the listening public out there. So if you would like us to answer one of your questions, then which email address should they send that question to, Joe?
Gardening@scribehound.com. That trips off the tongue now.
It's okay, you got that one, haven't you?
I've got it. And I think people are getting the hang of these questions as well, because they know what we do want to answer and they know what we don't want to answer. I'm hoping that anyway.
What don't we want to answer for those?
don't
Anybody
want-
who's listening for the first time?
Dull or dead?
Yeah, we don't do dead plants or questions like that. If it's dead, why is it dead?
It's because you killed it.
Yeah,
And we don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, and we don't.
In fact,
do-
no one wants to hear about it. Just compost it.
and we don't do boring questions. So if you want to win a Scribe Hound gardening gnome, then send us something interesting and exciting. Okay, so I've got these cards. Do you want to pick a card? Any card?
Pick out any card. It's like some sort of card trick. Okay, here we go. Jord or Jord, Jord, Jord Wilson. I live in the US. Hey, James, we're global, man.
We've gone
we
global,
are
haven't
global.
we? Yeah.
I live in the US. I've been enjoying Scribe Hound podcasts and articles. The garden culture seems very different in the UK than in the US. It seems here we have more landscapes, static installations than gardens. Do you see a difference? It seems here we have more landscapes, in brackets, static installations. So to me, a landscape is a natural landscape that you might see from a train or walk through or drive through somewhere outside of a garden. So I don't quite know what a landscape. Do you understand?
No, I don't fully understand what we're after.
Oh,
okay. So, right.
we are again.
All right. So the other thing we don't want is complicated questions.
I like the lighting, yes or no. That was my sort of question.
Okay, so yes, it is different. From my experience of American gardens, they are different to British gardens. Quite apart from anything else, my main bugbear that I have with American gardens is that they're not called gardens; they're called yards.
They're yards, aren't they?
And I'm not sure that that's right.
But large yards can't be a yard anymore. They must turn into a landscape.
Do you know what they become? Large yards? They become lards.
But I think the static installation is that maybe we have more seasonal planting, seasonal change. Maybe that's what they're getting at.
Maybe
that's what Jord's getting at.
It's a trick. It depends which part of the United States he comes from as well. Because again, some parts of the United States don't really have seasons, so maybe that's the problem.
It's one of those questions that there's more questions than answers.
Shall I tell you what we want? Is we're going to send a personal message to Jord saying, please send your question in again, but
Yes.
make it clearer so that we can fully understand exactly, and then we can give you the benefit of our experience and wisdom.
But because he lives in the US, and which we are trying to go a bit more global with this, he's going to definitely get a gnome anyway.
He's going to get a gnome.
I've just made a unilateral decision over
No, I think that's right. Anybody who's doing that. So I don't know. Which are the best sort of gardens? I don't know. Write back to us and explain what on earth you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pick a card, any card. I'm going to take the one off the top here. Oh, we're in America again.
Wow, James, we're going to have to go and do a tour, man.
Gosh, we're right there.
Come on.
If anybody wants to invite us to go to America and do a live podcast there, then we will be very happy to go.
We will. Yeah.
Kathleen.
Louis coming.
Louis coming. Okay, we might go when he's not looking. Kathleen W.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Do you think I should do this in an American accent?
Have a go. Why not? I mean,
This is going to be really embarrassing.
Well, I think we generally upset people, so let's upset another few million.
I live in Texas, and the armadillos are trashing my lawn and gardens, and I just can't stay up late into the night and next day chasing them with a gun. What to do?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, armadillos. Armadillos.
How many people have we upset there? What is armadillo? James, armadillo is one of my expert subjects.
Armadillo.
Oh,
do you know about armadillos?
I'm brilliant with armadillos.
Okay.
Yeah? Because I didn't even know they were nocturnal. So they obviously come into the thought of an armadillo running through your garden.
It's
I mean, we've got
lovely.
a squirrel problem, but yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that they were a pest. I don't think you should shoot them.
I don't think. Well, you shouldn't shoot an armadillo. I don't think you're not allowed to shoot armadillos in certain times of the year.
I have no idea whether there's seems. Also, I worry. Okay, an armadillo,
Yeah. Okay.
in my understanding, is an armoured animal.
They are armoured.
So if you're shooting
They're
at it, don't the
incredibly-
bullets just bounce off the armadillo?
Yeah, you got to get them in the right spot. You got to tickle them, get them to roll over, and shoot them in the soft patch.
Okay, I love this question. I think it's fabulous.
Do you think they do damage? Do you think an armadillo does damage like a badger would?
Yeah, exactly. It's a big old
Or
heavy
fox.
thing, but
Yeah.
it's like a badger with wearing a tank.
Okay.
It's sort of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's charging through stuff.
Yeah.
So I can see it would be tricky. I remember talking to somebody a very long time ago who lived in Alaska. And they had a vegetable garden. And vegetables in Alaska, you think,
Yeah.
but actually during the summertime, because there's so much
Well,
light.
short season of interest, but bosh,
Lots of light.
get them out there.
And
Yeah.
the vegetables grow. And the biggest problem that she had
Yeah.
was moose. So you'd wake up and she'd find a moose in a vegetable garden. And a moose is huge.
Yeah, that
So,
would.
so they have a whole other problem in America. But armadillos trashing my lawn and gardens.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're doing? Maybe it's a mating ritual. Maybe they're dancing. But I love that question. And Kathleen W., I think she can have 2 gnomes, as far as I'm concerned.
Louis got a picture of an armadillo. Why would you want to shoot? You can't shoot an armadillo there.
Well, it depends how many there are and whether they're in and they're doing too much
But
damage.
we've got to live with nature, haven't we?
I think to a certain extent we have to try and live with nature. But, you're in Texas. There's not a lot that grows in Texas. Is there?
Yeah,
No, stuff grows in Texas.
Of course, yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
But it's not the same sort of stuff as we would have. It's not exactly an armadillo amongst but it's lawns and gardens.
I think we need to move on from this question.
I love this question so much. I want to hold on to it.
Well, as soon as you
Okay.
said moose, I started getting it, but I thought of chocolate mousse.
I got a chocolate mousse in my garden. Okay, right.
I think there's a second question on that card.
Oh, should we do the second question on this? Okay, so I've got a card with 2 questions on it.
I only got a card with 1 question. That's not fair.
Okay, this is also a great question. Claire Collins.
Claire. Where's Claire from?
This is, I don't know where she's from. She could be from anywhere. But it's a very poignant question. And I think it's something that we should...
And you're going all somber on
Yeah.
me.
What is going to happen?
Yeah.
What is going to happen, Joe,
Yeah.
to my very small
Yeah.
wildlife garden when I die?
Well, it'll get wilder and wilder, won't it? That's the lovely thing about a wildlife garden.
Exactly.
But they do need a bit of managing, but that's very...
I think it's a very poignant question. It's the sort of thing, it's a very, very different contrast to the armadillos, to be perfectly honest. Very small wildlife garden when I die. What's going to happen to any of our gardens when we die? They will carry on growing.
Well, no,
under
all
different-
sorts of things could happen to your garden because you're just a custodian of a piece of land for a moment in time. That's what we are. We usually take that, the time frame of the earth.
Yep.
We are just looking after a tiny piece of land for a little bit of time. So I think gardens end up doing different things when people move or pass on. They either get taken on in their present form,
Yep.
and someone else maintains them, not necessarily as a tribute to this person, but just because it's a lovely thing and develops it and matures it, okay? Or they come in, they bulldoze it over, and they do their own. They put their own stamp on it, and they think, no, I don't want this wild garden. I want something completely different.
They put a solar-powered water feature.
Yeah, or this piece of land just grows out, but it takes on a life of its own without any, gardening intervention whatsoever, and becomes wilder and wilder and wilder. And maybe that would be the nice thing. But we don't actually know what's going to happen.
We don't know. We can't answer this question because I don't know what's going to happen to your very small wildlife garden when I die, or when I die, when she dies. I think that what will happen is
It's
that,
a
as you say,
concern. It is a concern for us as we all put a lot of time and effort into our gardens. Do you think about that with your garden?
No.
I sort of do a little bit. I think, is this going to be a burden for someone who takes it on, or?
I think I'm not there.
You're not bothered.
I'm not there. What can I do?
You're not there.
What can happen? I've done the bit. It's like you say, we're only here for a very short space of time. We're here for a flicker of the eyelid of time. Mm-hmm. And that's all, boom, like that. And we do what we can while we're here. We do what we can to make our gardens work for us. We do what I can to make our gardens work for other species. And I just say, to Claire, well done for doing what you've done while you were still here. And I hope it is many years before you finally shuffle off.
Exactly.
And I hope that you have lots of time to enjoy the gnome that we will be sending you.
Definitely.
Yeah? Okay, here's a card.
Yep.
Grab a card. Oh, they're all slightly upside down, D. Try that.
Well, it's not difficult.
Is that a card?
Oh, this is one from James.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice. Hi, gents. We like that. We always like that.
We like that. We like that very
I've
much.
just moved into a new house. It has a larger front garden and a smaller 3 meters by 6 meters east-facing rear, which I'm... So it's just the word rear. I'm envisioning as a cottage garden, profusion of floriferousness. Ah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
I have an idea of the flowers I want, but thinking I'll perhaps need some evergreen type stuff to provide winter structure and interest. Any recommendations? Love the podcast so far. James, you haven't quite got the gist of the podcast.
No,
this is a real question. Isn't it?
Yeah, this is a question that requires a serious answer.
It requires plant names, plant lists, a bit of horticulture, all the aspect and everything. Come on, let's give James a quick. A cottage garden, profusion of floriferous. It's east facing. I have an idea.
He's got that.
Hellebores. Okay, so go. I would go woodland for spring, definitely. Things like hellebores and ferns and loads of bulbs.
Just boil me down the essence of the question. What does James want?
He's got a larger front garden.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested in that. What's the question?
He's got an idea of the flowers he wants. He wants a cottage.
I'm not
cottage
interested in
garden.
that either.
You're dragging this out. A cottage garden. He's got an ideas of the flowers he wants, but he thinks he'll perhaps need some evergreen type stuff. Okay, good point. Good point. I was completely
evergreen stuff. So basically, we're going to give him one evergreen shrub each.
Okay.
And that's the maximum amount of horticulture we're going to do.
Okay.
Okay. One from you.
Well, I did it last. Sarcococca would go beautifully, east facing, lovely winter scent, and you get different sizes. Some of them sucker, some of them stay small. Give them a clip every now and then if you want. That's it. I'm going Sarcococca. Evergreen, James.
Evergreen. I'm going to go for. See, I was going to do Sarcococca as well. No, I can't. I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for a Daphne.
Lovely.
Daphne Balua.
Oh yes, Jacqueline Postil.
Well, possibly Jacqueline Postil. There's another one I had the other day, but I can't remember the name of it. Really nice. That isn't quite so pink. But yeah, look at the.
But they're both. So we're both going for winter scented.
Because it's winter. That's what you do. That's what you get from evergreens in the winter.
A proper waft. There was one of those Jacqueline Postils in a front garden in Highbury, and it was on my way to the Arsenal. I'd cycle past it, and every year I'd get so excited about it coming out. It got to about 3 meters. It was a beautiful specimen, and you could smell it from 100 yards down the road if the wind was in the right direction. It really pump out that fragrance, don't they?
You know, they do, particularly if you're getting close to the arsenal where the smell
Of hot dogs.
of hot dogs is getting quite strong.
And onions.
So it's managed to go through that. So yeah,
It's all
there
gone
we
a bit
go.
jerk chicken, actually, round Highbury
Is that
these
what it is?
days.
It's changed.
Yeah.
It used to be
great.
a wrestler's burger.
Yes.
A wrestler's hot dog. Because I used to work in an ice cream van at one point, and we sold Mr. Whippy 99s, and we also did wrestlers' burgers and hot dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
dear.
Oh dear. Not good. Okay. Does he get a gnome?
Well, we're a bit generous with them, but apparently we've got 500 of them now. But we've had to buy a whole load to keep the price down. So yeah, okay, I think yes, definitely.
Okay.
We've got to pay for shipping now.
We're gonna do-
Yeah.
Right. I've got a question here. Oh, it's a YouTube comment
Oh,
from Albert2385.
Albert 2385. Why's he got a number?
Yeah. I don't know why he's got a number. Maybe there's
I'm
2,385
calling
Alberts
him,
on
I'm
it.
calling him Bertie.
Oh, this
Bertie.
is a bit interesting. I think Joe is a bit pushy,
Yeah.
passive aggressive. To James's milder, somewhat laid back character.
Stop
I
saying
think
You're
James-
reading it out even more laid back than
Yeah.
usually.
I think James could be a Callistemon citrinus
Oh, yeah.
and Joe a berberis
Oh, spiky
of
number.
some kind. I mean, this is a statement rather than a question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that what Albert would like. I mean, we can't send Albert a gnome because we don't know what.
Albert's
what
definitely not getting a gnome from me.
No, I know
because-
because you're pushy and passive aggressive.
I am a
apparently.
bit pushy. Passive aggressive is.
I don't think you're passive aggressive. I think you're just aggressive. and yeah, because so I'm a Callistemon.
Do you want to be a Callistemon?
I don't really want to be a
You
Callistemon.
don't want to be a cat. No one wants to be a Callistemon.
I mean, unless I know a Callistemon is useful because it's a bottle brush, isn't it?
The bottle brush.
So
Yeah.
if you've got bottles that need cleaning, they would be quite useful for that. So I don't particularly want to. Do you want to be a berberis?
Not really. No.
Okay, well,
I don't. We
well-
didn't. We haven't put it out there. This is not a question. We haven't put it out there. What would you describe us to as in plant terms?
No, I mean, it's an
So
interesting
there's no
point.
question there. So let's move on. And he's not getting a gnome from me. That shows how aggressive I am.
There we go. There we are. There's a little bit of
Edge.
demonstrative or demonstrated passive aggressiveness. And I'm going to be mild and
You
somewhat
be-
laid back. And I can say, I don't give a damn.
Basically.
I don't care.
Whatever.
There we go.
Whatever.
All right, so do you want to do that one? That's the
Okay.
last question, I think.
Right. I like it though because this is getting interactive. People are getting into
No,
these
we like
questions.
this. We very much like and appreciate people replying to us.
Annie from Herefordshire. Call me a garden snob if you like, but I cannot stand plastic plants and fake grass. Those awful box balls hanging by doors, yuck. I don't like plastic flowers stuck in vases either, and don't get me on fake grass. Is there any situation you think these things look good and are justified? I would take a lot of convincing to change my opinion. A wood gnome is okay.
A wood... What? She's making a bit of an assumption that she's going to get a wood gnome. I
think
think that that's a statement rather than a question.
No, she's asking a question because she does say, is there any situation you think these things look good and are justified? And she's put a question mark in just to prove it's a question.
I think that at this point in our lives and at this point in the life of this podcast, we need to fess up to something.
Oh.
In the background in this studio are fake plants.
Oh, yeah. I've never looked behind
And so
me.
the situation which is acceptable to have fake plants is where the plants will almost definitely die because there are no windows in this place.
There's no
where we
windows,
sit.
there's no air.
There's no air, there's no none of those sort of things. So that is the only time when a fake plant would be acceptable, I think.
Because they're just a piece of decoration.
Because they are decor, they are not plants in themselves.
You know, they're not called fake plants anymore. I did a whole item for Gardeners World and I filmed a woman who had a garden with real plants and she also sold them. Faux botanicals. That's what they're now called in the trendy world.
What? Hang on. So because they are exact representations of a particular plant. It's like there's a thing whose name I've forgotten to your left, over there.
Yeah.
And that's pretty accurate
Calicacia type thing.
representation
Alocasia,
of that.
calicacia.
Yeah.
Yes, well, they these were actually made from silk rather than plastic as well. Her faux botanicals, and they were taken from molds of real plants, and then they were hand painted, and they did look quite amazing. Okay, I need to fess up to something. Because I actually, many years ago, I stayed somewhere because it's a very long story, but this lovely woman was doing me and my wife a huge favour, and I stayed there, and in her hallway she had a faux botanical orchid and anyway, she couldn't have cut flowers there all the time. There's a certain reason for it. I bought her a very expensive bunch of these faux botanicals, which were autumnal theme. So they were seed heads, and they were faded leaves, autumnal colours. And actually, it was looked quite amazing, and just needed a dusting every now and then. But I think they can work inside, but in the garden, I don't want to see them outside. Definitely fake grass. We've already slagged off fake grass massively, and I don't want to see it. And I agree about those balls. The balls that hang horrible from people. We're with you. Yeah,
we're with you on plastic.
But we're with you, Annie.
But I like the idea of faux botanicals, and then thinking about it, actually. A couple of years ago, Chelsea Flower Show, Joe Perkins had a garden where they had these extraordinary mushrooms in cases. And I bought one for my wife.
Knitted. Some of them were knitted.
And they were embroidery.
Yes.
So your faux botanicals made of silk, that's great. I think that those are lovely. I think that anything that involves skilled craftsmanship or craftswomanship in order to do it, I think that's great. But to go back to her thing, plastic stuff, no. Particularly plastic stuff, masquerading as real stuff. So it's there and pretending to be real, and it really isn't. So we don't agree with that. So we're with her, we're behind her, we give her a gnome.
Definitely. Annie, you get a gnome. Good question.
Okay. There, I think we've reached the end of our allotted span. If anybody wants more of this, or wants more of well, not just us, but also another 28 excellent writers, then we have how some podcasts have a sort of a listeners club, which you can go and join. Mm-hmm. We've got one already, which is called Scribehound Gardening, and you can go and subscribe to that, and you'll get a new article every single day dropping into your inbox. You can read it, you can have it read to you by the author, and we have such distinguished authors as...
We've got lots of authors. I was listening today to Hugh Richards on the way up here. I was listening. We've got Adverley. What's Adverley's surname?
Richmond.
Adverley Richmond. We've got Anne-Marie Powell. We've got Anna Tishmar, Sarah Raven. We've got Adam Frost. There's lots of writers, real diversity. I binge. When I'm on a bit of a drive, I binge and listen to quite a few in a row. It's great.
Oh, I tend to listen to them every day.
Do you listen? That's quite a discipline.
I'm an everydayer. But you can be whatever you want to be. So if you want to come and get more of the Scribehound Gardening love, it's like having warm treacles smeared all over your back. Every day something happens. So come and join us by signing up with Scribehound Gardening. The details are in the show notes. And in the meantime, we will see you next time. My name is James Alexander-Sinclair.
And I'm the aggressive Joe Swift.